Welcome back to Fantasy World of Motorsports. We are alive. We were able to record this morning. Thank you, Jeebus. Today we're going to talk about our what if for the week, and then we are going to get into race predictions, and we're also going to touch on just a little bit of NASCAR news, just a little bit. But
just a little bit.
Today we're going to talk about Alan Kulwicki. More specifically, we're going to talk about the drivers that he inspired to be owners and what it would have happened that if instead of winning a championship on his own, Alan had taken one of Junior Johnson's offers to try for him. And what if these drivers had never went off on their own to make their own teams? What they would have done, who they would have signed with, and we'll talk a little bit about Alan, just a little bit. This is more about Bill and Daryl, and we're not going to talk about Jeff because in this reality, if the team doesn't exist, there's no assets for Jeff to buy,
Right.
which unfortunate because I like Jeff Bodine, but we're not going to talk about Jeff Bodine today. I'll let Billy go first.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll just get started.
It's more of a question. My first one: do Bill Elliott and Alan Kulwicki kind of team up at Junior Johnson? For you,
So, are you saying is this the first time Johnson offers in the ride or the second? Because I can't remember when Bill drove for Junior off the top of my head. I know he drove for him in the early '90s, but I don't know if he drove for him before that or not.
The first offer was in 1990, and Bill was, I believe, went 91. I may be wrong, but I think that what I'm asking is, do you think that if Alan goes, do you think Bill goes as well?
Yeah, I think they would. I mean, Alan was one of the top, obviously one of the top guys, at least mentally in the sport. He was one of the smartest. That's why Johnson wanted him. He might not have been like your prototypical NASCAR guy. You're the prototypical like Dale Earnhardt or Darrell Waltrip or Cale Yarborough type, if you want to talk about like what every driver strove to be at the time. But absolutely. And I think that Kulwicki coming over with his guys, because obviously Kulwicki's going to bring over his guys because he's not going to put them out of a job. At least in my opinion. Kulwicki seemed like he was a hard head, but he seemed like he really respected the people that stuck around and worked for him.
Right. He definitely did. My next one is, how differently would we look at the 1992 season finale if Alan was with Junior and Bill did not go?
Bill did not go?
Yeah.
Where would Bill be then?
Do you think he'd still be at Melling?
Somewhere
else?
I don't know. I mean, Bill's a smart cookie, and he's the most popular driver at the time. Like, he's the most popular driver pretty much like forever. But like, he, I think he leaves Milling for Junior Johnson to try to win a championship. I think that was the whole goal.
I mean,
but I don't know. It'd almost be more interesting to me, like if you left everything else the same, like if you didn't change any of the results of anything, and it's Alan and Bill fighting for that championship as teammates. What then?
I think that we would definitely look at it differently. It may not be a 6-person battle like it was. Well,
No,
six people having a mathematical shot at winning the title, but how differently would it be? It's really just.
I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know. It's probably like nostalgia because neither of us were alive for this, obviously.
Yeah.
So all we have are like the dramatized. Well, I wouldn't say dramatized because it was insane. but like the retellings of what happened. Like we can go back and watch most of, if not all, the races if we really wanted to. But like, I don't know, that's just a perfect story. Like that is, I don't. But then again, you're right. I don't know if the story would hold the same meaning because
Alan stuff,
Kulwicki would be driving for a team. He wouldn't be driving for himself.
right? I mean, there's no way to tell what really would be the outcome of it.
I don't know if Kulwicki is motivated.
It's possible. And who's to say he even makes it to the final and is able to?
Because he made an insane comeback over the last stretch of races.
Yeah. Right.
Man, that's crazy. I don't know, man. I think Kulwicki as a driver would be motivated, but I think a big part of what drove him through that era and the reason he turned Junior Johnson down was what he wanted to prove he could do it on his own.
Exactly. Right. And
I think without that drive to do it on your own, I don't know if he quite has the motivation to do it. I think he has the skill.
He absolutely has the skill. The skill does not go away.
But
I just don't know if he has the same exact drive.
I don't know that
someone else.
That guy and that team was a different breed.
It really was.
Like the Underbird, like you just can't. If Hollywood wanted to write a script for a NASCAR season, you literally couldn't write it better than that. Other than in recency bias, 2011.
Right. I mean,
2011 is the equivalent of like the 16 seed making the March Madness tournament and then beating the number 1 seed.
Right.
It doesn't happen hardly ever, but it does happen.
Yeah, it does.
And that's not apples to apples either. I don't think 1992 and 2011 are like comparables by any actual metric.
Right.
But in terms of like this, the big thing going around is like the script, like, because there's not actually a script for anything except for like WWE, but like there's no script for this stuff, but like the script, if you wrote it, can get much better than either of those.
Right.
Just like Kevin Harvick winning his 3rd race in the car that Dale drove. Like, you can't write a better script than that.
Right. And sometimes fate just has a better way of writing a script than any writer can.
Yeah, like Dale Jr. winning the race after 9/11.
Right.
Like or Dale Jr. winning the return at Daytona. You can't, like, these naturally happening moments, whether or not everybody wants there to be some air of controversy around everything, especially now.
Right.
You look at NFL playoffs, you look at NBA games, there's always some kind of controversy about a ref call, about a missed call, about whatever. Because everybody wants what their reality is to be the truth, and that's just not how it works. That's never how it's worked. It's just everything's so instant now. Like, especially like if you watch the NBA playoffs as someone who doesn't have a team in them, you notice this a lot more if you're not like actually invested. How quick we're able to get slow motion replays is so harmful to the enjoyment of the game.
I absolutely agree with you there.
And ref, how'd you miss that? I don't know. Maybe because you're looking at it at like 6 frames per second. Like, come on. Anyway, I'm sorry. I tangented way too far on that.
But I mean, that's what it's all for. It's about. Yet now on tangents.
But the point is, it's such a natural, great moment in the history of the sport that, we're sitting here and talking about, the possibility of it not happening, which it seems sacrilege. That's kind of the point of what we're doing, is we're trying to like get under the woodwork here and, rewrite history a little bit. I don't want to go make Dale Earnhardt a 12-time champion or anything. That'd be cool, but I don't think we're going to do that.
Right.
What if Jeff Gordon never came to the Cup Series and he went and raced open wheel instead? Like, yeah, we know what would happen.
Yeah.
Mark Martin would be a rightful champion. No, he'd find someone else to finish second to, and you and I both know it.
Oh, absolutely he would. It's Mark Martin. No offense to Mark Martin, but he's the bridesmaid every single time.
Unfortunately. To answer your question, without the tangent, without the anything, if Bill Elliott doesn't go to Junior Johnson and Kulwicki does, Kulwicki wins the championship without most of the drama.
Right.
I think he still wins a championship. I think that all stays the same.
I have to agree with you there. Yeah. My next question is the guys who went off and tried owner driving. If Alan goes to Junior Johnson, how differently are their careers, like Bill Elliott and Darrell Waltrip?
Okay, so this is what I did the bulk of my research on. So Darrell went to owner driver first. He actually went before Kulwicki won this championship. He left in 91. He left Hendrick. So I wrote an alternate reality. But first, I'm going to tell you what his stats were from I only went 91 to 95. They're pretty much irrelevant after that. But in 91, he had 2 wins. He was 8th in points. This is all as an owner driver, by the way. 92, he had 3 wins. He was 9th in points. 93, he didn't have any wins. His first year without any wins. 94, 9th place in points. 95, he was 19th in points. He was injured in the Winston, and the team collapsed by 98. So, in this alternate timeline, let's just make it simple, because I'm sure he was getting support from Rick anyway, at least for the first bit. That or buying equipment off him or something. I'd assume. I don't know. There's probably a resource I could have looked into to see if they were making deals or anything. But let's say he stays with Hendrick and he stays in the 17 because that's the number he took with him anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's see. In 91, I say he wins 3 times instead of 2, and he finishes 5th place in the points. In 92, he gets 4 wins instead of 3, but he finishes 6th in the points. 93, he gets 2 wins, finishes 10th in the points. 94, he gets his win, because I believe that was the year that they gave Bodine the win on a scoring loop error or some kind of scoring error at Wilkesboro.
I think so, yes.
Because that's when Darrell says, that was my first year without a win. And I remember that vividly. I did not research that, so if I'm wrong, someone can tell me, but that's what I'm going with. So he got 1 win. He was consistent as hell, finished 7th in points. 95, he was still injured, but he finishes a little bit better in the points at 17th. 96, he gets 1 win, but he's starting to get up there. Like Father Time comes for us all.
Right, exactly.
And it clearly showed, outside of flashes, that DW was showing his age, even when he got in the DEI 1 car. Like Darrell got old, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. But in 96, he gets 1 last win, finishes 20th in points. 97th. In 1997, he finished 24th in points. Him and Rick mutually agree to split ways because the focus is now on, Jeff Gordon and Terry Labonte, who've just both won championships, and Darrell just isn't up to the standard of Hendrick at that point.
Right.
And then in 98, he fills in for the one car. He goes on his, his retirement tour. Everything else stays the same for him. So I think that, within reason, I think that's realistic.
I absolutely think it is. Yeah.
So Bill Elliott's the interesting one, though, because you couldn't just leave him at Junior Johnson, because Junior Johnson's team was on the way out. That's why Bill made his own team, at least in my opinion.
That's absolutely true, yeah.
So if he doesn't make his own team, where's the most popular driver go? And I told you that this one, if it happened in current day, both our houses might get burned down. I'm going to say he goes to JGR.
Oh wow.
Well, remember, JGR at the time was a one-car Chevy team.
That's very true, yeah.
Who had just released Dale Jarrett and brought in Bobby Labonte, Terry's younger brother. And who better to guide a young Bobby Labonte than the most popular driver with his McDonald's sponsorship? Because as we all know, that was around the time that money started to matter.
Right. It did. It most definitely did, yeah.
So Bill Elliott has this McDonald's money. Let's just say he stays in the 94 car. Let's not make this super complicated and try to introduce the 19 car or something way too early. Let's just keep it simple. You can pretend whatever numbers on the car you want. I don't think that actually matters.
Yeah, it doesn't really. Not really.
So I'll go through his stats from 95 on, and then I'll talk about the rest. So he goes over 95. He gets 2 wins. So already getting McDonald's wins. Finishes 5th in points. 96, he gets injured at Daytona. Unfortunately, he doesn't win a race. I don't think that's a far fetch because that was a rough year for him.
It really was, yeah.
97, he gets 3 wins, and he's back to 5th in points.
Okay.
And then in 98, he gets no wins, but he gets 14 top 5, 16 top 10s, and he's 8th in points. Because even as an owner driver, he was incredibly consistent. So
yeah, there's no denying that part. He was incredibly consistent, even when he didn't have the best cars.
Right. So I put 99 and 2000 together because if you remember, something very, very important happened in 99. A young Tony Stewart joined Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, that did happen, yeah.
So Bill puts up a win over those 2 years. I didn't say where or what year, but he kind of gets pushed to the side as far as priority goes as Tony starts to hit his stride. And there really isn't room for him at the end. Because at the time, JGR, well, we're putting JGR expanding the 2 teams about 5 years early, but JGR probably didn't have the means to run 3 cars competitively.
No, not at all. Not for another 6 years.
Right. So at least not on a full-time basis because they ran some part-time stuff. But
right.
So instead of sticking around to be 3rd on the totem pole, he goes and signs up with Dodge with his buddy Ray Everham, and his career ends about the way it did in reality. He gets another couple wins. He gets to go out on a good note. And Bill Elliott is held he's held really highly, I think. He's got 40 wins. He's a great driver. most popular driver for years and years, but in this reality, he's got closer to, let's say, 50. He's up there on that like borderline top 10-8 talk. If he stays competitive through the later part of the 90s, which I don't know. I don't know where I got Bill ranked. I know he's not my top 10. I don't go further in my top 10 because it
at that point it just gets a bit too much.
Well, you're splitting hairs no matter what you do at that point. I think that's why I don't like that top 75 drivers list, because like, are there even 75 drivers with multiple wins? I think there is. I don't know.
I don't know.
There's 200 drivers that have at least a win. I know that. Well, just over 200, because Chase was 200, Reddick was 201, or no, Ross was 201. I don't know. Ross and Reddick were 201 and 202. Were there any other first-time winners after them last year? Suarez, 203.
Oh, yeah. Suarez.
Anybody else?
I don't think there was anybody else, but I could totally be wrong. Because Buescher and Jones both had wins before.
Yeah. Yeah, Buescher had that Pocono win.
Right. Yeah,
I think that's it. I don't know. There's just over 200, but that's not what we're talking about. But before we go into predictions, I want to touch on Chase Elliott just for a minute. And I'm not going to jump on anybody's back or dig at anyone specifically. I am going to say what two people said, and then I'm going to say my response to them that I've already said to them. So it's already public info. But Jordan Bianchi on the teardown went straight on the side of, we need to wrap these drivers in bubble wrap and all kinds of, in my opinion, way too far in the other direction stuff.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. And he was on DBC the next day, and it was basically more of the same. And Freddie had talked to him on there. Freddie quote tweeted the clip from DBC on Twitter and said that if you compare snowboarding to walking down the street, then you get nominated for the What an Idiot Award for next week. So me, being this bit of a smart ass I am, and I promise this isn't a dig at Freddie, this isn't a dig at Jordan, I just pulled some statistics to make a point. I looked up the snowboard accidents on the last era of, like, the last recordable season, which is 21 to 22, because the 22 to 23 season isn't over yet.
Right.
And in the 2021-2022 season, there were 111 total snowboard accidents recorded. In the same period, in 2021, there were 1,225 private plane accidents. Who flies a private plane to almost every race?
Chase Elliott.
Okay. And I think he's obviously a good pilot.
Right. He wouldn't be in the plane if he wasn't.
But you guys, none of them has said anything about him flying a plane for years. None of them.
No.
None of them has said a word about it. None of them have complained about it. None of them has said anything. So it's over 10 times more likely that he's getting into some kind of accident driving that plane than he does getting on a snowboard.
Right.
Statistically. And I'm just going to leave that stat for what it is. And no one has to agree with me, because I think the middle ground here, and where I try to land, even though I don't agree with it, because I feel like drivers should be able to do what they want within reason, I feel like that we could possibly see contracts that limit what drivers can do during the season.
Right.
During the season, I could understand it. I mean, obviously you don't want to go from Fontana to Vegas and find out that your driver went snowboarding and fractured his leg, which, I mean, you can make the baseline argument that could happen anywhere. But like, yeah, he put himself in a position to get hurt, technically. But statistically speaking, he's more likely to get hurt getting in that airplane.
Exactly. And it's not like he's...
And I'm not saying he shouldn't fly the airplane either.
He's not an amateur snowboarder.
Right. He's been doing it his whole life. And I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying they're equivalents, but no one for years has said a damn word about him being in an airplane, which is statistically way more dangerous. I don't care if he does either, personally. I would be okay with it being limited, what they can do during the season to prevent the risk of injury during the season. Now, their off season, don't touch them.
Right.
That's their business. I hope they got good insurance. Like Denny said, he's got good liability insurance for stuff like that. So I hope they got good insurance. I think the drivers have the risk weighed in their head before they do these things. Okay, so they're not idiots. Well, most of them, but I'm kidding. But honestly, I'm sure they have it weighed in their heads. Hey, if I do this thing and get hurt, there's a possibility that someone gets in my car and does better than I did in it. Maybe not Chase, because obviously Chase Elliott, I don't think he's at a risk of losing his ride to Josh Berry and Jordan Taylor.
No, that's not going to happen.
But that's my only point. I don't think that all these people that are acting so concerned about snowboarding have much room to talk when they haven't been concerned about him flying a plane.
It seems a bit hypocritical to me, but
that I didn't say it, and it's not a dig at anyone. But I feel like the only people that it should matter to, what Chase does in his free time, is his immediate family and the people he has a contract with.
Right.
I don't think it's any of our concern, and it's not any of my concern. I hope he recovers fully. I hope he comes back and is competitive. I hope he comes back in the 6 weeks like they're saying. I hope it's not longer. I hope he doesn't have any kind of setback.
I really hope not either.
I hope the best for him. But I'm not going to sit here and say that he shouldn't be able to go and do what he wants when he's not at work. I could see them doing something to limit what they do during the season because, I get that. That's like, that's like me going the day, like going before work and going, I get it. Like the same day or, because driver schedules are a little bit weird. But regardless, that's where I land on it. Just don't act concerned about drivers when you weren't concerned before.
Right.
That's basically it. I mean,
I agree 100%.
All right. So let's talk about predictions. We'll talk about results from last week, and we'll explain a little bit more how we're going to do this. So we're going to do this the way that DBC Picks does, just a little bit, where we're not just picking winners. It's whoever finishes higher out of who we pick gives us a point for that series for that weekend. And then we just add them up and we have a total. Yep. So last week for F1 at Bahrain, I picked Max Verstappen and you picked Sergio Perez. Yep. Max won. That gives me a point. So for IndyCar, for St. Pete, I picked Will Power and you picked Scotty Mack. Will Power finished 8th. Scotty Mack finished 11th. So I got the point for IndyCar. Now we both picked Kyle for the Truck Series. So we both get a point for that.
Right.
We both picked Kyle for the Xfinity Series. Obviously, he didn't finish ahead of himself. So we both get a point for that.
Right.
And then for Cup, I picked Kyle. You picked Logano. Logano got wrecked, going 3 wide with Kyle and Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry. So I got the best finish on that because Logano
Well, he was
decided
on
to
the
make some.
outside, but
Yeah, Logano made some very, very good product placement for Pennzoil, but he did not beat the DVP clock, unfortunately.
no, he did not.
So total score so far is 5 points for me, 2 points for you, which on bigger weekends, this swings more.
Right.
Or on shorter weekends like this one, it doesn't swing as much.
Right. And we're going to limit how many times we can pick a certain driver as well.
Yeah. For F1, since there's only 20 drivers, we're going to limit each driver to 3 races. So basically, I picked Max once. I can't just pick Max for 20 races. That wouldn't be interesting.
No, not at all.
And you pick Sergio, so it means you can pick Sergio 2 more times. That's the gist. We're going to keep track of it. We got a little sheet going for that, and then we're not going to limit IndyCar. We're not going to limit the lower series in NASCAR just because there isn't very many super competitive cars, and we want to keep it interesting. But for Cup, we're going to again steal from DBC picks because this is just the easiest system.
It is.
So thanks to those guys, we can pick each driver once until the playoffs, and then it resets for the final 10 races. So I picked Kyle. I cannot pick Kyle again. And you picked Logano, and I'm sorry, but you cannot pick Logano again.
Right. And it's fine. It's really fine. But one week I pick him, he breaks out.
Hey, I got him in random fantasy, so
True.
on Twitter. So I mean, I get it. Like so far, my drivers have finished like 34th, 33rd, and 36th.
Great.
Yeah, it's going great, and they're all big name guys too. So it's just wonderful. But we'll get into predictions for this weekend, and I think they'll be pretty much rather short because it's just Phoenix. We're going to do ARCA, Xfinity, and Cup, and I'll let you lead off with ARCA.
I don't watch ARCA. I'm usually off only on Sundays, and ARCA doesn't run on Sundays. So I have absolutely no idea. But I'm going to go with 20 car. I'm going to go with Jesse Love.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I do watch ARCA. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I at least try to watch the companion events. I don't watch every main ARCA East, ARCA West, whatever. I don't do all that, but I try to watch the main events and keep up with the rest of it. I also picked Jesse Love just because I think he's in the best car.
Yeah. It's
So
not close, in my opinion.
So I didn't see anybody else that really sprung up anything to me on the entry list. So I went with Jesse. Xfinity, since it's the spring and not the championship race, I'm going to go with Justin Allgaier. I think he gets it done just so he can come up short again this fall.
Okay. I've had, for the top 2 series, I've been really going back and forth between 2 guys each. But for Xfinity, I think I'm going to take Sam Mayer. Finally gets it done. Finally gets his win.
That'd be dope.
It'd be awesome.
He seems to have pace if he can just put a full race together.
Right. And the main event of the weekend, the Cup Series. Again, huge dilemma for me. Been back and forth between 2 guys for the last couple days. But I'm going to go with my brain. I'm going to go with the new Casey Kane. Ryan Blaney.
Uh, so I've also been going very back and forth. That's ironic because that's one of the guys I'm going back and forth on. So since you picked him, I guess my choice is made for me. And I'm going to go with my heart instead of my gut. I'm going to go with Alex Bowman.
Interesting pick. I thought it was going to be Harvick.
I just, man, I don't want to waste him.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Like, I'm saving him for like a Richmond.
That makes sense. Yeah, he hasn't been the best since they moved to start finish.
Yeah, it's not the same Phoenix it used to be, unfortunately.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with Bowman. I feel like he has a chance with what speed he's shown so far. He's been top 10 all year and top 5 for 2 of the first 3 weeks. So I hope that speed carries over to Phoenix and he gets him a win. So all the haters on Twitter can, blow it out their ass. But it's whatever. But anyway, that's all we have for this week. You know, nice little 42-minute episode for you. Try to keep it about this link. Try to keep it like commute sized. Make it easier on you guys to listen to.
Yeah, we absolutely don't want to go an hour and 30 minutes every single week. So
Absolutely not. But we appreciate anybody that chose to listen to this, and we will see you guys after the races this weekend for a race recap. And yeah, so you guys have a good one, and we appreciate you.
yes, thank you for watching or listening, actually.